Okay, so hello. Oh, let me take the waiting room off. Hold on. I can't do two things at once on Zoom. I'm like a boomer with this stuff. Okay. So hello. Um, you guys know the drill. I'm excited. Every week I'm excited, but I am. So today we're gonna talk about some sex stuff, right? But I wanted to take kind of a deeper than the more conventional route, and talk about some topics that have come up in calls with various clients. And while I'm really, really honored that you guys share this stuff with me and with your coaches, and I think that if you guys who are talking to us about it, and it's such kind of like maybe a taboo thing, or you're not sure how to bring it up, I can only imagine if there are more people who might be experiencing similar stuff who haven't brought it up to us. So my hope is this. I don't necessarily expect this to be a highly interactive Zoom. I understand the nature of this is not everyone's cup of tea. Take what you can from it, what you want from it. And if there is anything else that you want to chat about privately, for the sake of my ADHD, if you could text it to me afterwards rather than sending it to me privately, it just throws me off reading the different people that it's sent to. But the conversation's absolutely welcome. I don't need you to be like an I agree with you, everything's great person all the time. Like, that's not why we're here. So even if something from today pisses you off, or you like just feel like you need to express how you're feeling about it, it's always welcome. Okay, so let's dive in. I figured we'd start off with the one that I've heard the least, but is the most taboo, and that is compulsory heterosexuality. So, all right, I don't want anybody to be like, are you trying to tell me that I'm not straight? Because I'm not. If you feel very, very adamant in your straightness, this does not pertain to you. It is just for those people who maybe have never even thought about this in their lives and could, So, what is it? Has anyone here heard about what it is or knows what it could be, right? So, in basically what it means is the idea of I'm going to use just your typical standard heterosexual setup for people like us, but do you want men, or do you want men to want you? Do you want men, or do you want the typical married life and family and idea of how it should be, right? So as I said before, hot button topic. And then I'm not trying to like force this on anybody, but when you happen to work with a lot of people who happen to have a lot of trauma in their past, they happen to come from a lot of maybe very strict, repressive upbringings, like I've seen this so often, where people they just haven't even thought about what they like, what they're into, what they're attracted to, what even is attraction, just things that have not been ever taken a stage in their lives. And whether it does take a stage and leads you right back to where you are, fantastic. Or whether you do take a look at that and say, you know what? I've never thought of that. I think that there's nothing threatening about knowing ourselves. So, let's see. And this doesn't even just apply to like you're either gay or straight. This is any sexuality. And there are a lot of people don't even realize this. There are many. Like asexuality is something that's never talked about. It doesn't mean the absence of ever wanting sex or ever being attracted to people. It means that attraction is different for people like that. And I'm not going to, this would be a 3-hour Zoom if I went into the like specifics of these things. But today I wanted to more so plant seeds for you guys to do whatever research feels relative to you. I don't want anyone to sit through something that they just completely don't relate to. But I think if you start uncovering what compulsory heterosexuality is, it's interesting, not even for you, but there might be a lot of people who you could see and be like, oh, yeah, okay, got it. And it just leads us to having a better identity, within ourselves. And that goes along with the communication factor that we're going to talk about today. So just to share a little bit, something that I've realized through therapy and everything was how, and maybe not something that I even realized until therapy, was kind of how inadvertently homophobic my household was. It was your typical, like, now my parents are so different. Like, I don't know if it's having a Gen Z sibling that did it to them and just like broke them in, but they're so different. But growing up, it was just a lot of like well, we want grandkids someday. I feel so bad for people who have gay kids and they never have kids. Or, there's like, oh God, I've heard the craziest shit just from family members of that generation. Love them to death, but they think that they're not even being that offensive, So I can't imagine how many other people were raised by parents of the same generation where things are thought about differently and people don't understand the weight of their words. So it really doesn't have to be like someone hovering over you saying, don't be gay, like it really could just be kind of programming to follow it. And if you're not somebody who's going to really look into that attraction or that sexuality, then it wouldn't come up really. It would just kind of, you'd go with the motions. And I think that a lot of people, it's not just because TikTok exists. A lot of people are hearing things that they relate to and they're saying, wait a second, that connects to me for some reason. What is it about that really feels like it resonates? And the fear might be to not go for that. I told Nick, I'm like, no, I mean this. I'm not just saying this because we weren't in a fight or anything, right? And I said, I mean this, that you are the only man that I would be interested in. Like if it doesn't work out with us, like I'm not on the man train. Like that's just something I realized about myself. And he thought I was joking for the longest time. Like like we fight and be like, oh, I'm just gonna be gay, but that's not what it is. And it's been, if you feel like texting me to ask me about the journey, it's been very nuanced. It's been interesting. Nick knows completely and we're totally fine, but that's been something through couples therapy, through solo therapy. If you can hear my voice, I'm like nervous even talking about it, but it is something that people are terrified to discuss when they've lived a whole life, being a certain way. And now that is different. So if you are in that boat, you are always welcome and free to talk to, whether it's me or any of the coaches. If this is something that affects you, don't feel shame or hide that. You have a community here who's more than accepting. Let me check the chat. Yeah, the Bible Belt. Oh my God. I have clients who have been in traveling cults before. I have clients who have had the craziest upbringings, the most regimented, so whether it's just straight up, strict Christianity or whether it's like, I don't even know, kids are impressionable and they're just kind of raised in all different kinds of backgrounds. And here we are just trying to find partners in life and settle down. It's when especially if you've been in survival mode your whole life or you've lived ashamed of everything you've ever felt, when the hell do you develop this identity or really do this deep dive? So my parents couldn't even talk about any sexuality at all. Yeah, I hear that all the time too. My parents didn't know anything about anyone I was with until I was ready to get married. It's like, my parents were definitely how do I describe them? They were conservative, but not like they could talk about we can make a gay comment, right? But it was like, if you were to be like, I think I'm exploring my sexuality. Oh my God, I don't know what would have happened. It was it would have been like water on the circuit board. It wouldn't have been okay. But it was like, they weren't sex positive, but they weren't conservative. They were in between. Everyone just kept it kind of like PG-13, let's say. My husband always says, if something ever happens to me, he's immediately going to have a KO phase. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that whether we're joking, whether we're serious, whatever it is, it's not I think it's almost a reflection of our connection to ourselves, how threatened we are to look at that. And it's scary to think about, especially if you're in a partnership and you're looking at that. It doesn't mean that because you're looking at this, you have to go ditch who you're with or anything. I'm not be like, peace out, Nick. I'm going to go to the gay bar. It wasn't like that. There's a reason you're with the person you're with, but this whole fear of I love that he says that. That's so funny. I'm so glad I can make these chats again. Yes. Yay. The topic is always in sync to what I need. Oh, okay. I love it. I love it. Feel free, share here, share in text, understand if it's a little bit bashful to talk about here, but whatever you're comfy with. I never had a sex talk. Oh, me neither. I heard some crazy rumor in 5th grade, My mom read my diary once and screamed, "You cannot have sex until marriage." That's my sex talk. Yep. I hear all kinds of variations of that. I grew up in a house that accepted all sexualities. Love it. My dad was born in 46 and my mom is a 50s baby. Wow. And they're from New York, like the city. Oh, okay. Got it. So like they'd hang with De Niro, right? Like, I love it. I think, no matter what background, you come from and stuff, there also could be some shame in like, well, I had such an open upbringing. Like, why am I just thinking about this now? But I was reading something that was talking about decorating style or like decor style. With now you have the very minimalist trends and then you have very maximalist trends, right? And it's like, you're allowed to have either style, right? I forgot where I was going with this. Damn. Oh, wait. This is the point. So whatever you grew up with typically is like the opposite of the way you want to decorate your home. Now, for me, I grew up in utter chaos, but at least the house always had a very clean aesthetic. And it was like very neutral tones and everything like that. And here we are. For those listening on Spotify, I'm ducking to see the 37 colors behind me, so sometimes it could be you grew up in a really open environment and it's just kind of like you followed the path, because you were so accustomed to that openness that it wasn't something you thought, if I had to explore this, I would have by now, but whatever the case may be, always feel free to talk. My mom never talked about sex to me. I knew just from friends. My sister is the same way. Same. Can't talk about sex, sexuality to either of them. I made it a point to tell my youngest sister that she can feel comfortable to talking to me about anything. Same. I feel more comfortable talking to her about myself too. Yeah, it's so important to me. Like she isn't hidden from the topic like I was. It really makes you realize like, what's so bad? What's so bad? Are people going to go out there streaking naked and running through the streets, because all of a sudden this isn't a taboo topic, and I don't think there's any correlation, actually, to the opposite of what I was just going to say. I would say there's probably a lot more pattern of repressive homes leading to people, going not so great, like into the deviant ways. Like I would venture to say that if you were to root that back, that there was probably some suppression in childhood, not saying that if you didn't have a sex positive house that you're like a murderer, but I'm just saying like, our ideas on sex and it needing to be so bad or so good or just anything other than a normal function of our human bodies, I think creates so much strife and, screws us over and not in the way we want. So, okay, let's see. These two, I'm going to answer these two in the chat and then I'm going to go back to what I got planned here. I talk way more now with my parents about sex versus when I was growing up. My dad still blushes when he has to say vagina. So same, like it's still a little bit casual, right? Like it's still nothing really intense or deep or anything like that. And my dad still, like if they're like making out too heavy in a movie, he'll want to change it, but it's just, I think it's also the times. It's just, we're more inundated, desensitized, if you will, We got people walking around who remember when there was a penalty if you showed cleavage in public, So we really made some headway here. It's not bad, it's not taboo, it's normal, and this is what I want my youngest sister to understand. Yeah, and there's also a lot more. There's a lot more freedom to talk about bad, like let's say like me, okay, my sexual assault. My first thought was my parents are going to kill me. That was the first thing I thought. And like, I think that, and I'm not trying to say like that was because they were so conservative. No, I just mean like, not just them, societally, like the less taboo we make it to talk about these things, the less shame in general. Like I knew if I had told them now in hindsight, like they wouldn't have killed me. Like they would have been very upset for me. But that thought, that fear that prevented me, a combination of feeling awkward whenever it was brought up at home and living in a society that's just a downer. Like you don't talk about that. That makes you bad. You put yourself in that situation, and I think that the more we make it about like not as taboo, the more we don't have to worry about being like the dirty wench, should something happen to us. You don't have to bear that load for no reason at all. So, okay. All right. All right. I love talking with you guys. Okay. But, what did I have here? Okay. So the solution. I always say I'm a big advocate for therapy, but I'm a big advocate for the right therapist. I think there are, I mean, there are bad doctors out there. There are bad anyone. There's a lot of people who are bad at their jobs out there, right? So while it's a very sensitive topic, it sucks having to try and find a therapist you click with, but don't let someone you do not click with or feel safe to talk with make you feel that way about all therapists and all therapy. Like with everything else that we teach you in CCA, let it become your guidance. You're like, okay, well, that type of therapist, I know I don't want to go to someone like that. I want to look at this specialty or whatever, and we can help you with it. But find a sex positive therapist who specializes in trauma if that's a part of your past. And I would say that you don't have to like do anything, just trust, whether it's us, whether it's a therapist, whatever, just start to go through the process as you want to, but don't let it become something that's like, oh, don't gaslight yourself. Whether it's about compulsory heterosexuality or just in general, any past trauma with sexuality, it's not something shameful to have happened to you, and it's not something shameful to address now. Okay. So, but also begin the discussion with your partner, and everybody's stomach clenched who relates to this topic when I say that, but you don't have to be like, you know what, I think I'm gay. You could just be like, hey, blame it on me. Be like, Michelle's encouraging us to just kind of get more comfortable communicating things about ourselves, so we're not just keeping it all in. And I don't want you to think of this topic I'm bringing up as problematic. I'm just trying to share with you what I'm thinking on. And casually bring it up. You don't have to have everything figured out. You can say that. You can be like, I'm so awkward talking about this. I don't even know I'm just sharing. But the more comfortable you become sharing about yourself, the more comfortable you're going to feel trying to understand yourself. Right. So try to just mitigate shame around this wherever you can, and it'll spread. Okay. So communication barriers. Oh my God, I just spilled water everywhere. Communication barriers and incompatibility in drive or likes, they go hand in hand. Because a lot of times people aren't incompatible. They are just incompatible because everyone's just so awkwarded out about trying to become compatible that it's kind of like, well, if it doesn't work, move on, but you're just going to go through like a roulette of people that way. Just to save, or you're just going to be kind of like, okay, I'll go along with it. I guess it's good enough. And nobody wants that. And both people can see when that's happening. So to fix all that, the first thing you look at is communication, because that's the root of all of the foolery, right? Is communication in anything that we're trying to communicate, especially something that we're not necessarily comfortable communicating about. So I'm going to ask the exercise here is the cringe. Without being graphic or sexy in any way, like I'm not asking you to like sext me right now, right? But say it as naturally as you can. What is something you like? Tell me in the chat. What is something you like sexually? In a matter-of-fact way, not having to turn it into like, cyber ASL, like for anyone who's old enough to know what that means. I love lemon water, by the way. I switched from Mio because I don't think my body likes the Mio drops, if I'm being honest, anymore. And I love lemon water, but does it make anyone else even more thirsty? Like good, because now I'm really drinking, but like, I don't know. And then I will circle back to everybody who messaged before this part. Okay, so I enjoy a man who knows what he is doing and has confidence in taking control of a situation. If you were to break it down into an action. What's one way that they could demonstrate that? Makes my mouth feel drier. It was funny timing because I really thought that that's what you liked. And I was like, okay, lemon water does it. I got the hack. But yeah, totally. I'm laughing so hard because when men ask if I want a dick pic, I say, oh no, why is this little icon? Oh, sure, I'll send you mine and attach a picture of Dick Cheney. Epic. Epic. A dude who gets pleasure by giving me pleasure. Awesome. But break that down. What does that mean? I enjoy praise and feeling like I'm wanted. Okay, so you like being told that what you're doing is good or that they enjoy what you're doing. Love that. Someone who takes control. In what way? I'm laughing at the other 20 people on here who are like, not writing anything, but eagerly like watching what everyone else is writing. That's okay. That's why we're here. That's why we do this. Locations, changes outside of the bedroom, variety. Okay. All right. Yeah, this could include kinks too. Like, again, I'm not saying like you don't have to sext me, but like if you were to just point blank, be as specific as you want to be. Yeah. But like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, I like it when he pulls my shirt down, you know, like, and calls me big. Like, if you're going to be that specific, how do I want to word this? How you would want to be is to say, I like when I don't have to say anything and he undresses me, not like it's a sex novel. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? That's all I mean is like, no one has to go pure Fabio in the chat here, but specific is good. Okay, we got a make out fiend over here, taking time to warm things up. Foreplay, huge. I don't really like quickies, not because I don't like it to be quick, because to be honest, I don't understand people who have sex for like 4 hours. That's never been my bag. But like I just get bored and overstimulated, I think. But like I like when it's not just a, hey, let's just do this real quick kind of thing. Like I'll be honest, I don't mind it at all, you know? So like if Nick is like super in the mood, sure. But like my preferred, which I make sure the next round is like, I like to have foreplay. Like, what are we rushing for? You know? So let's see. Control of a lot of things. So I like when someone else is dominating. That is so common. And I have a theory about that. I have a theory that people with ADHD like to be dominated because they don't have to think. Because they don't have to make decisions. They don't have to like facilitate. They don't have to like, because it's all we do in our brains to stay on top of everything at all times. So it's very difficult to both feel in the mood and also think about orchestrating all these steps. So I see that really commonly. I also think of it as the ultimate form of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Reassurance. Like if somebody is dominating you, then you know you're turning them on because like they just want you to be down, right? And like be part of like, you know, they're dominating. That's what your agreement is. So it's like a reassurance that we're not doing anything wrong. It takes a lot of that guesswork out, you know? Plus a lot of people with fatigue love being dominated, right? Like, do what you want. But not totally like that, I hope. So I like when my husband says he can't get enough of me. I love that. I love that. That's praise. That's the same thing I think Molly was saying before. And it's something so small. It's not even like anything really dirty even, you know, it's a huge turn on because it's something deeper than just that surface level, you know, those words. It like means that they like want us. And that's what we like, to feel connected. When he controls the next move instead of looking awkwardly at me like, all right, what should we do? Yep, I could see that. Not having to initiate every single time. Initiation, huge thing. And that's where we got into it with the drive, with the incompatibility and drive. That is really common. And I feel like everything you try to read online, it's like something like, oh, they're cheating. Like, no, you know, or, oh, you know, have they stopped talking to you completely and pulled? No, they haven't. They just aren't down as much. I don't know. They are when I initiate, you know, like there's nothing like that when you Google that. And it's so frustrating. Ask me how I know. So not having to think, absolutely. Sex in front of mirrors, making sex tapes. Isn't that funny though? Because like, I bet there are more people in here who would want to have sex in front of a mirror or make a video than they would have someone take a picture of them at a family party. So, because they're taking that picture from down here while you're taking a bite, first of all. But besides that, totally the kind of taking control I enjoy, hair pulling, pushing. So that definitely is a thing, and like, let's say you're with somebody who is like very gentle, mild, go with the flow. Like there's nothing wrong with that, but you don't want to have to go your whole life with it in the back of your head being like, I wish they would just pull my hair, because you know what they're sitting there thinking, I hope they like what I'm doing. And and all it is just not communicating. That's all it is, So I love your theories about it all. I can heavily relate. I love it. I love it. And it's all easily fixable, So eye contact, but not in a creeper way, adds to the connection. That is one thing I will say. I guess I just figured out, this year that I'm autistic, but I just got to say that makes so much sense in my entirety of my sex game with how I cannot do eye contact, or how my go-to is eyes closed, if I'm just being completely honest, not because of anything else, just because it's just a lot to focus on. But I definitely have encountered people who find that they only like eye contact like during sex if they're connected with the partner. So I find that that's really interesting. So let's see, sex toys, vibrators, all of this. I love to see you guys talking freely about this. Now my question, the reason for this, could you all say this as easily to your partner? Everything that you've just sent in this chat, could you say, I like it when you do this? And a lot of you will say yes. Good. But the ones who are like, I would get nervous. I would get bashful. Why is that? This lemon water, I'm sorry if I'm like awkwardly, like, I'm not tweaking out. I'm just so dry mouth from this freaking lemon. And yep. And definitely, if you want, for the person who is messaging me private, if you want, send me a text. I have my phone here. I can read it off the text a lot easier. I don't want to lose it in the chat. And I'll read it on here if you want, if you can text me though. Oh, and Dame Sex Toys is apparently the one to go for. That was sent in private. Dame Sex Toys. I'm just going to look because I'm curious. But I think I said this on another Zoom. If you're not a vibrator person, that's totally okay. Like, there are people who love it, people who hate it. I am in a camp that hates it, but I'm all for people who love it. Just if you don't, there's nothing wrong with you. It's the sensory thing. So, it took me a few years to figure out how to say I like it or don't like it. Once I learned, I'll continue doing so. Yeah, because it's like, they're relieved too. Like, they're like, okay, cool. I know what, that whole, like, you like being dominated because you don't have to think so much. That's returning that favor, when you vocalize it. So everybody just kind of goes, okay, cool, moves on typically, and just has better sex, So scroll up. Every so often, my husband and I have a little check-in about if any of our preferences or things have changed and what we would like to do more. I love that. Have like a little sex meeting. That's awesome. We could romanticize that even. You can like make it like your D date. You can like just go out to eat, talk about, do your little meeting, check your lists, and then go home and see how you can put that to action. Make it a day, mark it on the calendar. We all these days need something to look forward to. Let's be honest. So, okay, I used to be afraid to tell him what I want, but I realized we would be having more fun if we said what we liked, yes, and wanted. I wasn't used to asking for things I wanted. And I bet a lot of us in here are used to, maybe the few times we've even attempted to, it being like going awful. And it kind of makes it's like, do I just shut up and have some sex? Or do I say something and have no sex? And I think a lot of times you don't even have good sex because, one, you didn't tell them what you wanted, and two, you're in your head about that dichotomy the whole time anyway, so there's a lot that goes into why it's not easy to talk about this with our partner. And it doesn't have to be because it's a bad relationship or anything. It could just be because this is not an easy topic to communicate about regularly when you don't want to hurt your partner, So it's weird because we're so close and open about everything, and I can talk about sex openly in a friendly way with people, but from my conservative upbringing, I still feel shame talking about sex verbally when it pertains to me. So when I talk about it or try to, I feel like my dad's in the room with me and get obviously really uncomfortable. Yeah. I think that is, like I was saying before, that is something that sticks with you. It's kind of like there are so many things throughout our lives that can kind of tarnish our view of sex, but those things didn't really necessarily even tarnish our view of sex. What it did was completely block it off from being developed. So if you look at it now, it's like, it's scary because not because you're trying to change your views on it, but you're trying to develop any views at all, and mean them and really mean it and commit to those. And that hasn't had place in your life up until now, especially during your formative years. So it could really up the ante talking about it now, and it just makes it something that it's like, this is the least sexy thing I could possibly think about. It's not even worth saying, So what you could do, and I know this is going to seem silly, but I wrote it at the end. I'm going to mention it now too, is write it out. If ever something is difficult for you to say out loud, text it to them, or write it down, physically write it down on a piece of paper and just be like, and my favorite tactic is calling out the elephant in the room. I tell all my coaches this: if you're going into a hard conversation with a client, so you probably have all heard this, you just say, can I just say, I noticed how blah, blah, blah. Or no, sorry, how it is like, well, I don't want you to think I'm feeling blah, blah, blah. If they're like, well, I'm afraid that they're going to think that I'm mad at them. That's the number one thing. I'm like, well, call it out when you start talking to them. Be like, I want to tell you this because, I want to point something out I see, but I don't want you to think that I'm mad at you. So tell them, this is a topic I don't want you to think is problematic, but I want to bring it up to you. And I'm just really awkward about it. So I wrote it out instead. Maybe we can talk about it after, or if you want to write back about it, that's fine. Just call it out, because then they're like, oh, okay, they're really awkward. Like they'll tread lighter knowing that you're starting that conversation off, telling them you're feeling awkward. And then I would say also figure out what it is you want to talk about with them. Like I would break it down, not so much what I didn't like, but think about it as like, what do I want more of? And bring it up like something you're just realizing, like, I want more this. Now, if you've had this conversation with them a million times before, you could bring up, like, map out the exact way in which they would do that. So like, let's say the common one here is lack of initiation. And let's say you've told them a million times, I want you to initiate more, and it doesn't happen. Then I know it sounds unsexy right now, but then all it takes is them realizing how much you love it, and then they'll remember and want to do that more, right? So it's only unsexy in the beginning, but then give them an idea and say, I don't know, I'm just going to make this up. I love on Friday nights when, if we do like a movie, like a Netflix and chill kind of thing, and you were the one that initiated it. Like I would love like a Friday, just like old style, like under the blankets, watching TV kind of thing. I don't know. I just made that up, but like specifically map it out. Like this Friday, do this, I will be expecting it this time, or I want that to happen. It might take you initiating this Friday, which would be annoying, but would lead to that consistency, and then bring it up again. Friday was great. This time, Friday, can you initiate? And then like try to drop hints. It's annoying. It's frustrating, but there's lots of reasons why we don't initiate. And it has nothing to do with the other person usually. It's just the cluster of life that's happening. So making that a priority is important so that your partner feels prioritized like that. But sometimes some gentle nudging, like setting the stage, can kind of take the pressure off. Okay. Even though I love domination, I also love to be bossy. Love that. Rock with that, Thank you, Kathy, for the link. Not afraid to say what I want, or it feels good. Husband loves it. I love that. Yeah. Not for nothing. I don't know if this is graphic or whatever, but it's not very easy for me to like completely, get off if it's not outside stimulation at all. Now I hate vibrators. Remember, I said that. So what does that mean? That means I help out while Nick's doing his thing, right? And in no way has it ever been like a negative. I'll just say that. I would argue to say it's probably one of the favorite things that happened during, right? And where does that stem from? That doesn't stem from like, you're not doing a good enough job. Let me do it, like, so it's not the fear of like being out there when we're not used to that, when we're not, when maybe we even have trauma that has made us deal with fear and shame and things like that. You might logically know there's nothing wrong with this, but if you're still feeling paralyzed to act on that, that's still valid. Like, still message us. I hope nobody feels like I'm just telling you to, screw it, just be what you want. I get that this is multi-layered. I can also attest to the same vibrator. Wow, we got 2 separate clients. We got 2 good reviews on that vibrator. If you're a vibe person, that's the one. Yep. Don't buy the Pro 3. Okay. It was weird. I rebought the 2 twice, burnt it out. Okay. All right. I love this. Good suggestions. Maybe we should start like because I recently, I think Juliana was telling me she just bought like some kind of like massage oil that was apparently like insane for like stimulation reasons. And she's like, I thought, I was saying to her, I'm like, we should start like a naughty thread. Just one thread. We don't need it to overtake the page. Just one. Okay. Because like, look, now we got look, all these products in these in this chat. Oh, that was sent to me private. Okay. I'm going to make a naughty thread. That's it. I think you can comment anonymously, right? Because you can post anonymously in the page. I'll check on that, but we'll find a way to get the information to the people that need it. All right. All right. So things to remember. The reason I asked you that way, where I was like, you don't have to be sexy. Now, I didn't mean that to stifle anybody who wanted to be sexy. That was part of the exercise, was to normalize and just everyday banter it of talking about this stuff. Because whether you're comfortable being like that, whether you're not comfortable talking about anything to do with sex, the more you normalize speaking about it like anything else, the more you can communicate your wants and needs without it being deeply personal or hurtful or anything like that, because it can just be discussed, point blank. So, and this is before I give you the, I said the solution already. Practice thinking about what it is you like and then writing it down. Write down how you would talk to them about it. Maybe text them, tell them you're feeling awkward before you tell them so they know, but this is the big part I wanted to say before we jump today. If you are in a partnership where you can't express what it is that you like without fear of being embarrassed, being yelled at, them being upset by it, being offended by it, or whatever, the issue is way deeper than anything you could be saying. It should never be easy to anger your partner. Your partner, the person you love, should be the one you have kind of, I'm saying this because everyone gets on each other's nerves, so maybe I'll retract that. But you should have the most patience and grace for the person you're with, like there might be acquaintances and people in your lives that you're really like, you cannot stand them or whatever, but like the person you're with shouldn't be one of them, really. If all things are like that, so my point is, if you're ever going to tell your partner something that's important to you, whether it's as casual as like, I prefer doggy, versus like something deeper, like I might be, not straight, whatever the case may be. If you have fear of your partner's reaction being something that they're going to discard you, they're going to hurt you, whatever, and it's not just rooted in your own trauma, then don't just suppress this shit to avoid that answer. That is a deeper thing. And everybody deserves to dive in on that, right? So text me if you need some resources and stuff like that. If you need an ear, you need direction for a therapist, whatever the case may be. You want to ask someone who's, me and Nick have been in couples therapy forever. We love it. We think it's a supplement to our marriage. Whatever it is, reach out, but don't stifle this stuff because you're afraid of it being inconvenient. Everything is figure outable, and communication especially with communication, no one has to suffer from allowing themselves to think about these things. So we stuck some very specific things into 40 minutes. I'm proud we didn't go like all that much over. But I really want to make sure that, I have a couple of comments to read, but after I read these couple comments I missed, I would love to further this conversation with you guys specifically. So feel free to text me. It might take me a little bit to get back to you tonight, so probably tomorrow, but I want these combos to keep going. They're always welcome. Okay. So let's see what we missed up here before we jump. Oh, did I get everything? I think I got it. Okay. I waited a year before telling my mom, even though she was my best friend and knew everything. Right. Like, why is it bad? Why do we feel like sluts? Like all the time. Lots of answers for that, but it's annoying. I never told my parents I was in an abusive relationship in high school. He's married and lives a mile away, and they went to his wedding. Oh, damn. That sucks. I'm so sorry. Like, one of my abusers, the person I said my parents are going to kill me, that person is like a celebrated state trooper who has like his own canine unit and runs it and everything. I'm like, the dogs, you don't deserve the dogs. Okay. But it's like people just keep going on these lives, just living their normal lives. And it's like, what a piece of crap that person is deep down, but you have to keep it in and keep going. Like, why wouldn't you just feel great and free about sex and everything? Why wouldn't you be worried? Why wouldn't you be questioning yourself? Of course you would be, because all of this gaslighting normalcy is happening around you, right? But how you felt that day, I'm sorry that happened to you. That was like, I would have come hang out with you on that wedding day. But I'm insanely happy my partner knows and is okay with my sexuality. He makes me feel comfortable in my skin. That's huge. And if anyone's afraid that you'll never find that exists out there. Like, I was really, really nervous when I told Nick, and I said to him, like, does it make you feel bad? Like, I didn't want you to feel like I'm not attracted to you. Like, because I am. I can't, I think the benefit to figuring this out later, is that like I really fell in love with Nick for so many other reasons. And it's not that I'm not attracted to him whatsoever, but I just guess I realized that I've never had attraction to men. It's that like I love looking at him. He looks great, but it's not the same thing for me. And I never even realized what that was. So it was a relief. He goes, no, why would that, like, if you didn't want me, you wouldn't be with me. And I was like amazed by the comfort of that acceptance, to be like, he's not insecure about that. Like, that's a relief. It's a huge relief, because I got to tell you, like, no one else I was ever with would have been the same way. Not one. So it's scary, but it exists. It exists. As you know, my house is very conservative and controlled, so I genuinely thought I was asexual until I was 19 in college and did everything for the first time, including substances, all in the same night, and realized I was gay. But done, like, surprise, you gay, but I mean, what a welcome party you threw for yourself. But no, absolutely. Like, and it's also understandable though, that it almost seemed like you explored your identity as a form of rebellion. And when you try to explore your identity from a place of health and wanting to like yourself and wanting to feel comfortable with yourself, it's always going to be different than exploring when you're in trauma. You're almost like self-harming in a way when that's happening, because your pursuit of identity is for something to save you or make you feel better. It isn't for you to like yourself, and it's definitely a journey. I think there'll be times throughout people's lives where they discover there are more things about their identity every single day, and who they meet and what they experience and all of that. It just, shit would be boring if that didn't continue, right? Like, what are we doing for the rest of these years? My brain can't sit still. So, okay, and we're all caught up. So yay, this was great. I hope it was helpful. I hope we weren't too brief on the topic. So, like I said, reach out if you want to elaborate and enjoy the rest of your night. You're all wonderful. And thanks for being here. Bye.